me today saying, I don't get it. Why am I not growing to 10,000 followers on Instagram? Why are my reels not performing? Honestly, at this point, Instagram is quite saturated. Almost every business has an Instagram account. We're all fighting for the same audience. And unfortunately, the average person can only pay attention to 7 to 8 persons' content per day. So unless you are one of the top 7 or 8 that they're paying attention to, it's really, really hard to fight for attention. So
before we dive into this week's episode, let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, Fern Whitening Supplies. If you offer chairside teeth whitening services, you need Fern in your life, your one-stop shop. High quality ingredients made in Canada and minimal to no sensitivity. On top of their full line of chairside essentials, they also have a full retail whitening line that is non-branded. This is the perfect blank canvas for you to grow your business with. Check out all things teeth whitening at fernwhiteningsupplies.ca. Now let's get on with the show. Happy Whitening Wednesday. This is episode 20, and today on the show we have Kelsey, who is a leading marketing coach. And Kelsey, we are so excited to learn from you and to hear how Visionary Life has grown over, you said it's been, about 5 years?
Yeah, so the podcast has been going just over 5 years, and I have been doing the business for about 8 years now.
That's amazing. So tell us the professional story. Like, how did you end up in this successful entrepreneurial role? Like, where did your career journey start?
So I spent the majority of my corporate career in my 20s working for some of Canada's largest health food companies. And I worked as a marketing manager. I worked as an experiential coordinator. So I was out and about creating activations, but everything really rooted back to marketing. And I loved it. And 10 years ago, when I was working in this career path, this was also the rise of digital marketing. So these brands were launching their social media channels for the first time. We were optimizing our websites and building our e-commerce stores. We were hosting webinars, and that was totally not a thing 10 years ago. So it was really neat to actually watch these companies who were very established really start to create in this digital realm. And so because I had come from a background more in face-to-face marketing, I was doing a lot of community marketing, I was relationship building, and then to have a very active role in the digital space, I learned a lot. But one thing that I didn't love was working for other people. I hated going into work every day. I worked downtown Toronto. I had to put on blazers and these ill-fitting suits that really did not feel like me. Like, I don't know if you've ever worn an outfit, Rachel, where you're like, I just want to get this off, and you get home and you rip it off because it doesn't feel good. And that was basically just the overall feeling I had with stepping into these office buildings. And I realized at a certain point that I had the drive and the motivation and the connections to maybe do this on my own. So one day I decided I was going to make a plan to actually exit the corporate world. And I went freelance, which is such an incredible career path because you can take on a few clients, you can kind of work as a fractional employee for a few companies, but you can do it on your own time. So you can do the work early in the morning, you can do it late at night. So I did freelance for a couple of years. I was doing the marketing strategy for a lot of different brands and companies downtown Toronto, and I loved it, but it was very taxing. And at a certain point, I thought, you know what, I could package up this marketing strategy that I'm doing for these companies and make it into more of an online course or something that, you know, people could purchase, teach themselves, and then have a marketing strategy that works to build their brand and to grow their community. So that's when I created a framework called the Visionary Method. And today the Visionary Method is a 7-step system for launching and marketing your online business. And this is for anyone, no matter whether you have a background in business and entrepreneurship or you're starting from scratch. You're like the newbie entrepreneur that's like, I know I'm destined for more. So we've got the course today. I also do private one-on-one coaching. So for people who are like, I just feel so overwhelmed with marketing, Kelsey, please help us make this simple. Please help us grow our business. I do that. And I also run a couple other masterminds and programs that are all digital based.
That is so amazing. And I feel like you were literally part of that group that was like the pioneers of bringing digital into the workforce, like marketing, which is so amazing. Like, what have you noticed since when you first started to now? Have you noticed that it's been more or less just technical platforms that have changed, or has it been like just businesses all together just going more digital marketing? Has it been a mixture of both, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with any new strategy or new industry that emerges, I always think like there's this quick hockey stick rise. And it's like, okay, all the early adopters of Instagram, they grew really, really fast.
Sure.
But this was like 12 or 13 years ago. So I have people coming to me today saying, I don't get it. Why am I not growing to 10,000 followers on Instagram? Why are my reels not performing? Honestly, at this point, Instagram is quite saturated. Almost every business has an Instagram account. We're all fighting for the same audience. And unfortunately, the average person can only pay attention to 7 to 8 persons' content per day. So unless you are one of the top 7 or 8 that they're paying attention to, it's really, really hard to fight for attention. So I think whether it's with websites or whether it's with hosting webinars and online education sessions, whether it's building an email list, growing on TikTok, having a LinkedIn following. Yes, there are the early adopters that are going to have success, but eventually there's going to be an abundance of content. And what's required of us as business owners is to create the best content so that followers and people who are subscribed to our email list and who are tracking our website, so that they actually want to keep coming back. Because if your content is not good enough, it's not standing out to someone, they simply won't pay attention. And that's okay, because our attention span is very limited. So I would say, yes, the digital world is always changing. We are always looking for ways to stay unique and different in our approach to content creation, because unfortunately, doing what everybody else is doing is not going to be the reason why you go viral or get famous. You have to produce really good content that stands out from the masses in order to get noticed these days.
Oh, that is so true. I love that you mentioned that. Actually, literally just the other day, I had someone reach out to our wholesale Instagram account, and they were inquiring about educational packages for teeth whitening services. And the person just straight up said, well, can you tell me why you're following so low? And this person was literally making their educational decision on starting a business, and starting a service that's pretty intense off of a following account. So I mean, it was wild. I was like, this is insane, but it's what is out there. And it's true, really, at the beginning it was so easy to get those high followings, but now with the lovely algorithm changing what seems like daily, it is hard to produce what we are thought is the most important thing, right?
Yeah. And I think people get too hung up on vanity metrics, like how many followers do they have? When in reality, what we should be looking at is how engaged is their community? How do the numbers look on their back end? Because I can tell you from working in social media for the last 15 years, there are a lot of people who have 50,000 followers, but if you hover over every single post they've put up, they get 3 likes. Do we think that person bought followers, is striving for the vanity metric in hopes that it will trick people? Of course. But we should never, ever base how successful a business is based on the vanity metrics like followers or likes, because what we really need to see is this business profitable on the back end? And oftentimes they are different.
That is so true. So true. And we seem to miss that. So that's great that you're putting that out there. So you have so many great resources. When would you recommend? So a lot of our listeners are service-based providers. And when would you recommend that a business owner starts to really think about getting help in the marketing space? Is
Mhm.
there a certain problem that's probably coming up the most? Like, is it that they're not posting enough, or that they don't think that they have the right contact or
Mhm.
content, I should say? Or would you say that there's another kind of flag that if you're noticing this, this might be a good time to really start looking into getting help and a mentor or a coach in the marketing space?
Absolutely. I think it's important to honor the fact that not everybody has a background in marketing. So if you feel overwhelmed when it comes to marketing and getting visible, if you feel like it's a heavy weight to carry and it's like, oh my gosh, I have to sit down and do marketing for my business, and you feel a little bit overwhelmed, that is totally normal, because this is going to be a journey, just like your journey in understanding your bookkeeping or understanding your inventory, whatever it is. So, first thing to note is to give yourself some grace. Second thing is to make sure that you adopt the right mindset around marketing. There is no one size fits all approach. So, even though you might see a lot of your colleagues who post on Instagram 5 times per week at 7 a.m. each day, you might have tried that, but it's not really feeling aligned for you. You're actually not seeing any results
Growth.
from it, but perhaps you have another gift. Maybe you are super involved in your local community. You have hundreds of connections and you love getting out and teaching workshops or hosting events at the local coffee shop. Maybe you are so good at writing and writing blogs, and
Mhm.
ranking your website on Google is actually going to be really easy for you, which is not at all posting on social media. However, you might end up finding so much success just from either getting out into the community, building relationships, or maybe doing more behind the scenes search engine optimization and having a really great website that your customers and clients love to visit. So I would say, for the person who is feeling like, I just don't really understand marketing, and I feel like all I keep hearing is I need to have a TikTok account, just know that that is not true. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ways to promote your business and get visible. Instagram and TikTok are two of those hundreds of ways. You could also write articles for magazines. You could be featured on people's podcasts. You could host your own podcast, create a YouTube channel. Community marketing is huge. You could do experiential marketing, which is delivering an experience, something where people can actually try your product or service. You could do email marketing and build a subscriber list. You can do word of mouth and referral marketing, where you have a strategy where people actually talk about you when you're not around. So I would say, for the person who's just feeling stuck, not sure where to go next, that's a great time to reach out for help and to have somebody guide you on what the best marketing strategy is for your business, but also for you as a founder and as a spokesperson, because chances are you're going to be executing the marketing strategy. So you want it to feel fun, easy, enjoyable, and most of all, you want it to work. So we can always find like this perfect medley of marketing efforts that's going to feel aligned and that's going to produce results.
That's amazing. So I love that you pointed that out, that there are so many different ways other than just the social platforms that we
Yeah.
seem to be the most commonly pushed towards. So that's so good. So good. Now, so we did have a couple questions that came in from some listeners. They're so excited that you were coming on the pod, and I'm going to kind of throw them at you and let's
Yep.
see what you say back,
Let's
because
do it.
it's going to be good. So the first one is, where, I think I know what you're going to say, where is your favorite spot to advertise?
Ooh, oh my goodness. Okay. Advertising as in paid or organic marketing?
So we have both.
Okay.
So which one would you say for each, or are they the same?
Yep. Okay. So if we're talking organic marketing, this is where I'm not putting money behind like promoting or sponsoring or advertising. I would say Instagram stories is one of my favorite. This is where you can really connect with your existing following. It's not necessarily going to get you in front of new people, but you can really start to build that relationship with people who already follow you. I also love podcasting. I love this because you can build a really deep and intimate connection. And I've had a lot of people hire me who say, I've listened to your podcast for years. I've learned so much. And eventually they trust me enough to reach out and hire me. So those are two organic ways that I think I love to connect with my audience. And then I don't do a lot of paid advertising. I really advise against paid advertising until you have a substantial budget and until you really know where your lead generation is coming from organically. For me, I saw that a lot of leads were coming from Google. So 8 years into my business, it made sense to invest in Google ads. But again, I would not recommend that to people who are in the early stages of their business. Oftentimes you hear stories of people just throwing away hundreds of dollars per month. And then you ask them, well, what's the return on investment? It's practically zero. So I would focus on organic first, always.
That's a great point because, I mean, if you don't also have a plan where you're putting those advertising dollars, it's going to be so hard to get that return. So hard. So that is a great tip, especially because a lot of our listeners, again, are service-based. They're trying to get butts in chairs. It's going to be figuring out where their audience is and then how to get them to come in. So that's a great point. So this one's a really fun one. Now, if you say you have figured out where's the best channel to advertise, if it's Google or your social platforms, etc., what do you think? Do you think that you should always advertise with a discount? Or do you think that you should be able to advertise without offering some sort of promotion or discount for your clients?
Yeah, you should always be able to advertise without a discount. I will say providing promotional windows is always a good way to get people over the hurdle of investing in your services. So use promotions maybe once a month, once every other month, but don't forget about two other elements that you can leverage, which are urgency and scarcity. So saying, hey guys, we are going to give you a bonus thing when you book in before Friday, or giving them something extra instead of a discount, but putting a time limit on it. And then also using scarcity. So we have just one spot left for a booking on Thursday. When it's gone, then you're going to have to wait till next week. So using scarcity. So you don't always have to discount and give 10% off or $100 off. Sometimes you can actually add in value and then use urgency and scarcity to sell off those spots or those packages.
That's a great tip because then you're not cutting your margins either, right?
You got it.
That's amazing. That is so good. So I mean, I feel like you've answered so many questions and have been so helpful to our listeners. Where can our listeners find you? And if they want to reach out to work with you, you listed off the different ways that we can potentially work with you. But give us one more rundown. Like, what would you recommend off the top of your head? As you know, every business is different, but if a teeth whitening service provider was struggling with marketing, give us where we can follow you and then what you think out of your services would be the most helpful for them.
Absolutely. So I produce a lot of content over on the Visionary Life podcast. So that's available on Spotify, iTunes, and wherever podcasts can be found. I'm also very active on Instagram. I'm just at Kelsey Reidl. And I would say for somebody who is struggling with their marketing, who's trying to grow their business, but just feels overwhelmed and stumped, the best option is my private business and marketing coaching. I step into your business. I basically act as your chief marketing officer for 4 months, and I put you on a project management software where we're going to sift through everything. We're going to start tracking your results, and you are going to see measurable improvements within 30 days. So if you have big goals, if you have big dreams, but you just feel paralyzed in how to reach for them, you can partner with me. me, and I'm going to help you and give you the attention that your marketing and business strategy deserves.
That's so great. So great. You are going to help us blow up the teeth whitening industry, Kelsey. It's going to be great.
I love it. I'm happy to help anytime. So if anyone wants to call me, text me, email me, I'm very available. I just love connecting with others and even just sharing practical tips for people who just need a little nugget of wisdom, because marketing is my passion, but I know it's not everybody's passion.
It's hard. It's
very hard. It can be very hard. I get it.
Well, thanks so much, Kelsey. It's been so great. And those of you who are listening, you can catch us again next week for another episode of Whitening Wednesday.
Thank you.